She's circumnavigating the globe on a sailboat with her husband, writes books that spanned every genre, and previously ran a horse farm. Alison Gieschen doesn't just live stories, she creates them. Get ready for adventure on land, sea, and the page with Alison Gieschen. Welcome to Journey with Jake. This is a podcast about adventure and how through our adventures we can overcome the challenges of life that come our way. While I expect you will learn some things about different adventures, this show will entertain you. Each episode will feature a different guest or guests as they share experiences and stories from the different adventures they have been on. Not only will you be entertained, but you will also hear the failures and trials each guest faces and what they have done or are doing to overcome the hardships that come their way. My goal is to take each of us on a journey through the experiences of my guests with the hope that you'll be entertained and inspired to overcome your day-to-day challenges. After all, it's not all about the destination as it is about the journey. Welcome to Journey with Jake. I'm so glad you're here. Before we dive in, make sure you're following me on Instagram at Journey with Jake Podcast and check out my YouTube channel for video versions of these incredible stories. And of course, hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. Journey with Jake is proud to be part of the Podmatch Podcast Network. Check out podmatch.com/network for some great shows from other podcasters like myself. Today's guest is Alison Gieschen, an author with a wide range of books, an adventurer currently circumnavigating the globe by sailboat with her husband Dan, and someone who lived on a farm and grew up on the backs of horses. We'll talk about life on the open sea, her deep love for horses, and the creative drive that fuels all her adventures. If you enjoy this conversation, you'll also love episode 163 with Brandon and Amber Morse, another inspiring story of a couple who sold everything to sail the world with their family. Okay, let's get to my conversation with Alison Gieschen. All right, this is exciting for me today. I've got Alison Gieschen with me today. Alison, welcome to Journey with Jake.
Thank you, Jake. It's great to be here.
Awesome. I love it. I love that you're coming from your boat. You're on a boat currently. Tell us, before we get going into, we're obviously going to talk about that, but where are you currently? Tell us, give us that part first.
Okay, well, currently we are on a small island called Hiva Oa in the French Polynesian. And this was the very first island chain we arrived at when we crossed the Pacific Ocean from Panama.
Okay, so you went Panama across the ocean to this location in French Polynesia. How long did that take you?
Well, we were supposed to take around maybe 25 days, 27 days, but we had to make an emergency landing in the Galapagos.
Yeah, okay, maybe we'll talk about that here in a minute. This is part of the adventure, part of the fun. Okay, wow. Okay, so you had to make a little emergency stop. Obviously, we're going to talk about your sailing life, but I'd like to know a little bit about who you are, kind of what's going on with you, Alison. So if you don't mind, take us back a little bit, give us a little background on who Alison is, where you're from, all that good stuff.
Okay. I the first half of my life, or not half of my childhood until the 9th grade, I grew up on a 100-acre farm in upstate New York. And we had every animal known to man and gardens and all organic stuff and raised everything that we ate. It was a really unique upbringing. And of course, horses were involved. And I was competitive by 10, 11. I was seriously competitive in the horse industry. And then my dad got transplanted through IBM to Charlotte, North Carolina. So I became a Southerner. But I was able to bring a couple horses with me off that big farm, and I continued to compete. And I actually qualified for the screening trials for the Junior Olympics, but that wasn't meant to be. So I got into sailing, and it started on a lake in North Carolina, a giant man-made lake. And when my mom and dad retired, they moved to New Bern, North Carolina, and my mom decided she was going to be the fastest woman sailor in New Bern, North Carolina, in their competitive Pamlico Sound racing. The problem was there were no other women. So she just decided she's going to be the fastest sailor, period. And this is important because I went to join her for a race, this big Michelob Cup race. And my cousin brought this friend of his with him from Philadelphia, who was my husband. And we met at that sailboat race. And that weekend, we spent the whole weekend together right before he was leaving, because I was going back to Charlotte. He was going back to Philly. He said, my dream is to sail around the world someday. I said, mine too. Let's get married. And he proposed 4 days later, and I said yes.
Wow. What a story. I love it. So horses were big for you then. You were competitive. Now, when you say competitive, like jumping horses, vaulting, is that what they call it? Vaulting? I'm not even sure what they call it.
Okay, so I did eventing, which is dressage, cross country jumping, and stadium jumping, and then they combine the three scores. And that is an Olympic event. But when Dan and I got married, we built a horse farm, and my sister got me into this crazy sport called equestrian vaulting, which is gymnastics on horses. So I totally changed direction. I started training these vaulting horses, and I started and we got to be the biggest team on the East Coast. And I ended up going to 2 World Equestrian Games, which are like the Olympics. They're held every 4 years, just 7 riding disciplines in a different country. In 2018, my daughter took 8th in the world in pas de deux in one of the events in equestrian vaulting.
Wow. Okay, we probably could have had a whole nother separate show just about the whole horse thing, because I knew you had grown up, with horses, but I didn't understand to the extent of it. You were competitive, had to move away, took a couple horses with you, but then got involved in sailing. And then, but once you got married to Daniel, I think his name, your husband, then you got horses again. You and Daniel have your own horse farm, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Well, I
Is
never
that right?
got
Am I
rid of
getting
him.
that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
I took my horse to college with me, and just kept it on a farm and still continued to ride and teach. And then I gave him a horse for a wedding present. And he's like, what do I do with this? Because he didn't really ride. And I'm like, I don't know, but he loved ice hockey. So I'm like, why don't you try polo? It's like ice hockey on horses. And we actually found a startup program in our area, and he became so possessed with this sport. He got nicknamed Frank in polo, and he became one of the best local players, traveling to all the different fields and playing in games. And he was actually really, really good at it.
That's amazing. What is it with horses? Like, what's the fascination for you and horses? Why do you love horses so much? I've never had a horse. I don't know. Tell me about it. What do horses mean so much to you?
Well, my earliest memories of anything in life are being on the back of a horse. My mom actually had me on a horse before I could walk. So when a baby would be born on our farm, I would sit there with that baby all night long and cradle its little head in my lap. And I would spend hours. I would get on my horse and just ride out. We're in the middle of nowhere, upstate New York in the Catskill Mountains. And my mom never said, where are you going? How long are you going to be gone? I would just get on my horse and I would just go. And they're just so ingrained into me. Like, I just have this bond with them that's crazy. And I guess if you read my novel, The Seven, even though it's not about me or any particular person's bond, you will understand how horses bond with humans and how that exists and happens.
And that's a good point, because I know, a lot of people have their pets, their dogs, cats, whatever, but horses, I know a lot of people, I've had a few people on who've had relationships with horses. There seems to be something special about a horse as well. And for me, I look at a horse and they're majestic and they're big, and they're different than just a dog. And you can have some pretty big dogs, but horses are bigger. Yeah, tell me, what's the bonding part? How does that kind of work? Are they just like, can they be like puppies? What's it like with a horse?
They're very different than dogs. I had the most amazing relationship with my dogs as well. They were, just part of me. My dog actually got on and rode the horse with me. I'd go on trail rides and take my pug Jack Russell mix in front of me on the horse. Like you said, they're big animals, so you don't have the same intimate relationship that you do with a dog climbing on your lap, but they still interact with you in a really special way. For instance, every time I took my 2,000 pound out draft horse out for vaulting, first thing he would do is he'd come up to me and he'd take his nose, his giant nostril, and he'd put it around my ear, and he just took this big inhale, and it was just like he knew my scent. He knew everything about me, and we had a communication that was so refined that he's on the end of a lunge line going around in a circle, and I could move my head in a direction. I could take my head from central and move it over my shoulder, and he would respond to it. Or I could turn my body slightly one way and he would respond to it. And if I made a single sound, if I went, he would stop dead. No matter what was going on, he would stop dead and not move until I told him to move again. So, that's pretty amazing considering their size and, their nature. But that's the best I can explain it, I guess.
No, I love it. No, thank you for sharing that. I just kind of want to know, yeah, a little bit about that with you. You also kind of mentioned a book called The Seven. You're an author, you're a writer. Where did that come about for you? Was it something that, in school? Did you kind of pick it up in school? Kind of give me the whole writing background and how you found a love for writing.
Well, I was an English teacher. So I started in high school English and then migrated to elementary school because the kids were a lot more fun. High school English, like, they hate English. You got to get them before that age and instill a love of writing. So that's what I did. And I wrote my first novel back in 1980 something, just a fictional novel. And then I wrote a nonfiction about one of my draft horses, one of my vaulting horses. And then from there, the books just started coming. And now that I'm on a sailboat and I have all this time to write and these amazing adventures, I've written the first 5 years of our sailing journey that's published on Amazon. I have the sequel written and we're publishing that soon. I have a children's mermaid book that's coming out in a month. I write all the time, and then I blog and I, do travel journals.
I think what's amazing is the different types. You mentioned children's books, you mentioned fiction, novel, nonfiction. You run the whole gamut of things. You don't find there's one that you particularly like, or do you enjoy it all?
I just write what I'm inspired to write. I mean, I'm very ADD. I'm all over the place, like Ricochet Rabbit. So when an idea strikes me, it becomes a book.
You said you were an English teacher. Was there what inspired that? Did you have any teachers yourself or anybody that inspired you to kind of go that route?
I think the reason why I wanted to become a teacher, one is I loved writing, but I had 3 children. They were 18 months apart. So they were separated by 1 grade each. And they were going to elementary school, and I wanted my summers off. I wanted to be able to spend them with my kids and same holidays. And it just made sense. Like, to be a teacher, I could work in their school with them. So when they were in elementary school, I was actually the computer teacher because they didn't have a position for me anywhere else. But it was perfect because I was there with my kids every day, and it was wonderful to have the summers off. And that's what I did most of my vaulting program was during the summers. I had camps and we traveled to competitions and all that kind of stuff.
Wow. Okay, you had a lot going on because you had, you're running the horse farm. You're a teacher. You have 3 kids, 18 months apart each of them, which 1 grade apart for each of them. I'm guessing are they all grown up out of the house now, so to speak?
They are, and they're all best friends, which I love. And they all have 1 to 2 kids, all around the same age. So the cousins, it's really neat to see all the babies together.
It's fantastic. Boys, girls, what are your kids?
2 boys and 1 girl.
Very good. Nice. 2 boys and 1 girl. You got some grandkids. And in the meantime, you're on a boat. You're out sailing the world with your husband. How did this come about?
Well, last night we were together after that sailboat race. He's like, I want to sail around the world. And I actually, on my farm in upstate New York, one day I was just walking out to the riding ring and I pictured a boat and I pictured being on the ocean. And I thought, how cool would it be to sail around the world someday? And I don't know where that inspiration came from because there wasn't water anywhere near us. It just came to me like a vision. Like, I want to learn how to sail. Someday I just want to sail around the world.
Boom. And here you are making it happen. When did you start? 15, 16?
2018.
2018. Okay. So you've been out there, the last 7 years then or so. Yeah, 7 years. Wow. Okay. So you've been out there doing it. And I know you met your husband at a sailboat race. So I'm guessing he's got some sailing experience as well.
He was a merchant marine graduate from Kings Point, and he was on their sailing team. And he won 3 national championships in dinghy racing, not big boats, dinghy racing.
Okay. Hey, so yeah, he's got a lot of experience, which is super helpful going out, getting the boat. Okay. Wow. This is amazing. So where did you start? Kind of what was the first experience? What was the first major crossing you did?
Well, that's kind of a rough story.
Okay.
I didn't want to cross my first ocean all by ourselves. So you can join something called a rally. And a rally is a group of people, sailors that get together. It's a professional organization that you join. There's several of them. We joined the ARC Rally, and they help you prepare. You have to check off all these safety equipment lists and things like that. And then you all leave together to cross the ocean. So our first crossing was all set up. We're all ready to go, but we heard a strange noise in our propeller, and Dan wasn't sure that he wanted to cross with something wrong with the boat. So we went back to shore because we were paralleling the coast going south down from Virginia down towards North Carolina. And he said, let's just go get it checked out. Well, that turned into a 10-day delay.
Dear.
So everybody else was getting across, and finally we have a weather router who tells you when it's good to go and what the conditions are going to be. And he finally said, okay, there's a good window opportunity. If you leave in the next couple hours, you can get across the Gulf Stream, which is notoriously rough, and you should be fine. Well, he was dead wrong. And we got across the Gulf Stream just fine. And then we got caught between two storms. Like, you know, the movie The Perfect Storm?
Yeah. You were in
Okay,
the
well,
perfect
that's kind
storm?
of, we, not to the, we were in 20-foot waves, and they were being compressed by two storms pushing them together. And 20-foot waves were crashing onto the bow of our boat. And it just was horrific. I mean, I was horrified. I really thought this is it. We're going to die. The first ocean crossing. It actually ripped the dinghy off the front of our boat. It ripped the handrails out of the boat, through our dinghy, out through the lifelines, which broke the lifelines. We lost a solar panel, the windsurfer, a whole bunch of stuff. We had $14,000 worth of damage, and we had to turn around and go back to shore. So we ended 20 miles from where we started in North Carolina, and we did 500 miles and ended up 20 miles from where we started. And I was severely damaged from that. I didn't think I could ever cross the ocean again.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that because, yeah, I was gonna say, here you are sitting in French Polynesia as we do this podcast. That experience, though, I mean, I would have wanted to quit. It sounds like you kind of wanted to quit. You had that in your mind. How did you overcome that?
Well, I didn't want to quit. My fear was so great that it was really weighing on me. And we did get across. I made myself get across. And we got to the Virgin Islands, and we were getting ready to make the trek to Bermuda and then all the way across to Europe. And I'd wake up every morning and say, today's the day I'm going to tell Dan I can't do it. I'm just too fearful. It's just too stressful. He's got to get somebody else to crew with him. I'll fly over. I can't do it. I can't do it. Well, we pulled into a harbor in St. Martin, and 3 boats away, now there's 100 boats in this harbor, 3 boats away was our mentor and the person who we got all our education from and prepared to be liveaboards and cross oceans. And we met him at a boat show. He was a presenter, and I had all 5 of his books. And I actually paid to go on a training passage with him, a 1,000-mile training passage in heavy weather, just to prepare to be on a boat, because Dan had great sailing experience. I had no experience on oceans. I said, Dan, I need to do this with this man. I need to do this. So we went sailing with John Kretschmer, and he said, you two are going to be fine. You're great. You're ready to go. So fast forward to the crossing and the horrible storm and me being just emotionally a wreck. And we pull into a harbor, and 3 boats away is John Kretschmer. So we go over there for happy hour, and John goes, hey, how's it going, Allison? And I'm like, it's really bad, John. We just had this really horrible time. I'm so scared now, and I don't think I can ever sail again across an ocean. And he starts laughing. And I'm like, what? Excuse me? He goes, do you have any idea how lucky you are? And I'm like, no. And he goes, do you know how many people have an experience like that? They instantly sell the boat, and they're like, okay, I'm done. And they're done. You survived it. Your boat did fine. Your husband did fine. And you're still out here. He goes, you know what the chances of that happening again are? Like 0. He goes, you made it. You did it. And he was the only person in the world that could have looked me in the eye and said that to me, and I would have believed it.
Wow. I see a few things here. I see just how fortunate you were that he was there. Like you said, he was the only one that could have said that to you, and you would believe it.
The only person in the world, and he was 3 boats away.
100%. And he's 3 boats away, because there's no, otherwise you would still have that fear, and that, and trust me, I'm guessing there's times the fear creeps in. I don't think you would be normal if that didn't happen. But I think it's so fortunate that he was there. There's a lot of lessons. This is why I love doing this show, because I learned so many things when I talk to people, and I'm sitting there taking away lessons too about just keep going, and hey, you survived, and it builds something, and it helped you learn something, and it's just amazing that you did it. So then boom, you left there and went across to Europe.
Yes, we did.
Wow. And now here you are in French Polynesia. So I just want to ask if there's anything about sailing that you just absolutely love. Is there part of it that just brings so much joy to you?
Definitely landing in a new harbor, in a new country or a new island, and being able to look out and say, today, this is where I live, because this is our home. So every time you pull into some exotic, beautiful, wonderful new place, you live there. And it's just the most incredible feeling.
How long do you stay in particular places?
The reason that we stay someplace for, let's say, 3 to 5 months is it's always waiting for a part that we need to repair our boat. We've been in 5 countries now for 3 to 5 months waiting for parts. Otherwise, it's usually just in and out, maybe a week or two, and then on to the next place.
When you have those moments where you get into a place for a week or so, or whatever the case may be, what kind of things are you doing there? Are you taking advantage of seeing the sights and being part of the culture? What are you doing, you and Dan, when you're in these places?
It really depends where we are. For instance, we got stuck in Cape Verde, which is the little island off of the coast of Africa. It's down, I guess, about midway down Africa. And that was a really hard 3 months because there just really wasn't much to see or do there. Some very nefarious things went on, let's just say. And
Gotcha.
that was a really, really tough 3 months. But for instance, when we were in Spain, A Coruña, Spain, that was a wonderful place. And we did a lot of touring and bike riding because we have collapsible bikes on our boat. So we
Oh,
can take them
beautiful.
to shore and just go exploring. So it really depends where we are stuck as to what we do. We were stuck in Ireland for 2 years because of COVID. COVID hit. We were stuck there for 2 years.
Wow.
Now that's a
What
great
do you
place
think of
to be
Ireland?
stuck.
Okay, good.
I know it well.
I was going to say you probably learned a lot about Ireland.
Yes, we rented a car and drove all the way around the entire island. So that was really neat. And we also got to house sit in a place the size of Downton Abbey for 3 months because the
Hey,
owners were trapped in Australia. And that was absolutely incredible to be on a 200-acre mansion on Bantry Bay, which is Southern Ireland, and just live in this beautiful place.
it's amazing. While you're doing all this traveling and you're stuck in certain places waiting on parts and things like that, what about the kids and the grandkids? How often do you see them? Kind of what happens? Have they been to visit you anywhere? Like, what's going on with that?
They have been to visit us, absolutely, but not since we've been to Europe. It was mostly in the Bahamas and the Caribbean. Our children are not fans of us doing this. They would love if we were there. But thanks to FaceTime, I can see them every day if I want and talk to them and know what's going on in their lives. We talk every day. I talk to one of them every day, at least one of them every day.
It's good. I'm glad you
And we
still
have
have that
Starlink
that
on our boat.
relationship, and perfect.
Yeah, we have
So you
we
got
have
connection all the
Starlink on our
time.
boat. Yeah. And my mom is
Yeah.
95, and as you know, she's a sailor, and she calls me all the time.
It's amazing today with the technology just how we're still connected, and it's so nice that we still
Yeah.
have that connection. All right. Any other moments of, I don't know, I don't want to say if it's fear or just any other tough moments. I mean, obviously storms sound like those are pretty bad. I'm guessing when things break down and you're in the middle of the ocean, maybe that's a little scary. Any other moments or any other experiences you can share with us?
Yes, this crossing the Pacific was our fourth ocean crossing, and it was horrendous. All of my worst fears, other than sinking, absolutely came true. So the first thing that happened is my freezer went, and that's where I had all my prepared meals. Because when it's rough, you don't want to start having to put a meal together. So what you do is you prepare everything in small packages, put it in your freezer, and then you can pull it out and heat it up and cook it. So before we even pulled out of Panama, the freezer went. And I'm like, great, we're going to cross an ocean for 30 days, and I'm going to have to like physically prepare every meal. And plus, the fresh stuff only lasts a week, and then we're going to be eating out of cans. Like, it's going to be miserable. But normally you can fish, which was some consolation, but it was too rough to fish. We didn't put a fishing line out one single time because it was so rough. But we didn't even make it to begin our journey very far when our jib, which is our big sail out front that we rely on, especially for going downwind, and this is a downwind passage, it ripped to shreds because the forestay, which holds the jib, we had just paid $7,000 to repair, and the guy didn't put Loctite, and all 40 screws holding that together fell out. So our sail like slid down and ripped to shreds, which is why we made the emergency landing in the Galapagos. So also, our engine was giving us trouble. It was leaking oil, and Dan was afraid that we were going to lose our engine. So we went to the Galapagos, and we spent 2 weeks there. We paid like $600 to get the sail fixed. It was $1,200 just to drop anchor. We paid to have the engine fixed, and we thought we're all good to go. So we set off again. Now we're closer. We're maybe 24 days away from French Polynesia. And we had our sail up. Well, the bottom of the forestay fell out, and our sail got caught and ripped again, and it was ripped so badly a second time that we had to just take it down altogether. So now we don't have like one of our most important sails. So we've got our main and this really tiny stay sail. But we're like, it's okay. We can still sail. We're still alive. We're still alive. We're still afloat. We can make this. Well, the other biggest nightmare for me is if we lose our autopilot, because then you have to hand steer. And these big sailboats are not easy to hand steer in big waves. And with only 2 people, you can't hand steer 24 hours a day. It would just be absolutely miserable. So halfway across, our autopilot went, and we still had 650 miles to go. So I was really traumatized. I'm like, Dan, what are we going to do? Like, I can't do this. And so this poor man had to hand steer for like 3 hours at a time. And then I'd take over for maybe a half hour. And it was so physically difficult. I could only last like a half an hour at a time. And then every night we would have to heave to. We'd have to turn the jib, keep the main sail on one side, turn into the wind, and then back wind the jib up front, and it keeps you pointed into the wind, and you don't have to steer, you just float. Fortunately, the current was going with us, so we were still doing like 2 miles an hour in the right direction. So we could sleep at night, wake up in the morning, and then start all over again. And that was good until our steering started going, which is my other big, huge nightmare. Like, what happens when you lose steering on your boat? Like, what do? You have to get helicoptered off the boat. Well, Dan said, oh my God, there's this noise in our steering cable. This is really bad. It means it could go at any second. So we had to heave to, and he had to spend a whole day taking apart the steering column, all the parts of the boat to follow the wires all the way through to the back of the boat where the rudder is. And thank God he's a mechanical engineer, and he found the problem, and something had loosened, and he tightened it and got the steering back together. So the freezer going, the rip sails, the engine, the autopilot, and the steering were like 5 major catastrophes. But we made it, and we were exhausted, and it was just never a smooth, calm day. Like, we didn't have one single day where we sat up on the deck and enjoyed the weather and the views and the dolphins playing. The dolphins didn't even come visit us. Like, never have we crossed an ocean and not had dolphins playing in our bow wake. And then we get to French Polynesia. We're here 3 days, and that's when the tsunami came, and we had to go back out to sea and wait for the tsunami to pass. So there's nothing like ice cream on the cake when you throw a tsunami into that equation.
Oh my goodness. Wow. Okay, so much happened there. But here you are. You're talking to me, you're smiling. What kind of things did you learn from this? Why do you still have this smile on your face? I mean, that's like a rough way to have things happen.
My mother told me yesterday, she goes, Allison, this is all your fault. And I'm like, why is that, Mother? And she goes, because you just told me those were all your biggest fears. And when you put that kind of thought out into the universe, you're making it happen. And then she told me she's going to enroll me in this course about positive thinking.
Your mother is very wise. I love that, it's, the whole manifesting thing. And I subscribe to a lot of that. And I believe in a lot. That's so funny that, that she brought that up, and, there's your worst fears all came to pass. But here you are, you made it to French Polynesia. I don't even think you've even had any time to even get out and explore yet. So I'm hoping you'll be able to enjoy what you see around there.
We rented a Jeep 2 days ago. We have a friend that's actually here also, because you meet sailors and you end up arriving in a lot of the same ports. And so our really good friend Eric and Dan and I rented a Jeep, and there's only one road to go from one side of the island to the other. One road. And we did that one road and got to the other side and saw the island, and it's absolutely spectacular. I just put out the video today of part 1 of seeing this island, Hiva Oa, and the history here is incredible. The stories of the villages and the remains, you can walk through the remains and see the tiki sculptures and everything. And the people here, you know what they did with their enemies when they conquered the neighboring tribes? They ate them.
Oh, goodness. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, history.
So we learned all about that.
Wow. And I would just imagine, with all of this circumnavigating the globe that you've done, I'm sure you still got places to go, but you've probably, I don't know how many countries. Have you probably been to a lot of countries? How many countries have you both been to?
Almost 50.
Wow. Okay. So you've been to almost 50, which every country's unique in its own way. They all have their own cultures. That's got to be pretty fun. I know you mentioned Spain and enjoying your time there. Africa, not quite as much. Any other particular place that you've just been like, wow, I'm glad we stopped here?
The Azores were one of my favorites.
Where is the Azores?
They are a group of islands 900 miles off of Spain, and they are Spanish owned. And they are all volcanic. There's, I think, 9 of them. Might be 6. They say there's 6 or 9 of them. And they're all different because they were all different couple million years apart in their creation. So they have different topography and different looks and different feels. And somehow they're subsidized or something by their government, because We would go eat like a 5-course meal and it'd be $20 a person. And that was with the alcohol.
Hey, not bad. That's
And
pretty
each
incredible.
island has its own cheese. They all make their own cheese. So I'm a huge cheese lover. So I could go to the grocery store and get the 7 different cheeses from the 7 different islands. And one of them makes wine. They make volcanic wine. There's no soil down by the shore, but they plant the vines in the rocks, and there's so many nutrients there that they grow. So, and you can't import this wine anywhere. You can only get it there on that island. There's just so many really cool things, waterfalls, and the hot springs. So you could go sit in the hot springs, and every island was like this really neat little adventure, and it's filled with sea life. It used to be the whaling capital of the world.
Wow. That's amazing. Now that you've crossed the Pacific, you're in French Polynesia, where are your travels taking you next?
So we'll go to this island chain is called the Marquesas. There's also the Tamatu with a lot of really neat atolls. We are scuba divers and we have a dive compressor on board. So we are really looking forward to the Tamatus, which have really beautiful clear water and manta rays and all kinds of sharks and really, really neat things to see. We did go diving when we were in the Galapagos, and we got to dive with hammerhead sharks. That was really cool. But after the Tamatus, there's also Gambier, which we may go to those islands, and then we'll go to Tahiti and Bora Bora.
Beautiful. Bora Bora is I always tell people when they ask me, hey, where's the one place you want to go? And it's Bora Bora is like on my list. I want one of those
you can
overwater
come join
bungalows.
us.
Hey, yeah, I would love that. Bora Bora just seems amazing. So I would love that.
We do have a guest bedroom with your own bathroom and everything.
Oh, very nice. That's wonderful. Talk about that. Your home is out at sea, it's on the ocean, it's in a boat. How has that affected your relationship with your husband? What's that kind of been like being this close all the time?
Well, he is my best friend and he is my soulmate, and he's the most patient man in the entire world because I lose it all the time. I am the bravest chicken on the planet. I really am. I'm out here, but I am constantly not trusting, and he's so competent that I really shouldn't be afraid of anything because everything that we've almost been sinking, like twice we could have sunk, but he fixed the problem both times. There's just like nothing that he hasn't been able to fix or repair. And I have total and complete faith in him. But like I said, I'm a huge chicken. And it's just the fact that he puts up with me. How can I not just worship the ground that he walks on? Because any other man would have thrown me overboard by now. Like, oh yeah, she slipped off somewhere out at sea. I looked for her. I swear to God, I looked for her. Like, that's what anybody else would do.
Not Daniel. He's keeping you around. He obviously loves you too. You're his soulmate as well, I think. So that's fantastic. It amazes me because when I've talked to a few people who sail, and including, I think, probably my top episode was a young lady who's out sailing by herself. She's like 25. In fact, I think she's in French Polynesia now from what I remember seeing some of her posts. But it's amazing the things you have to know as far as just all the little mechanical things and how to fix things. And you have to know how to fix things on the fly. When you're out in the middle of the ocean and something's going out, you can't just say, if you're out there far enough away, you got to learn how to fix it right then and there. And just hearing you talk about your husband, yeah, I can tell he's got some skills, and he's, I would feel comfortable knowing he's there too. I wouldn't feel comfortable with myself, but I'd feel comfortable knowing he's around to take care of things. So I think that's awesome.
And his nickname is Boat MacGyver.
Boat MacGyver, it's a great nickname for him. It's perfect. So I kind of want to go back to your writing that you're doing a little bit, because here you are, you're out sailing across oceans, and you're taking care of that, and you've got your blog that you write. You said you mentioned you write a blog, things like that. I know you do stuff on YouTube and put out videos and things like that. How do you, I'm guessing you're out in the ocean, so you have time to do it, but what's your writing like out there on the ocean for you? Is it just whenever you get a chance? Do things just come to you? Like what kind of a writer are you? Do you have to have everything prepped and planned, write an outline first, or do you just kind of go? Like, what's your whole writing style, especially being out on the ocean?
I've never written an outline or prepared anything. And when I sit down to write, whatever I'm writing is inspired. So it plays like a movie in my head and I just write it down. Like, it's so weird. Like, the book The Seven has 7 characters from different places in the world, different countries, continents. And while they are inspired by people or places I know or knew or have been, and I did a lot of research, like every occupation, every part of their culture, their histories, their jobs, their occupations are all fact based. So I did tons and tons of research. But the actual storyline, I just sat down and, like I said, it was a movie, it played, and I wrote it down. And the funny part is, I got to the ending. I had no idea how the story was going to end, but it culminates with all 7 people coming together. And I was at my computer for like 3 hours and I just couldn't stop writing. And I'm like crying because the ending was so awesome and it's such a twist that I never saw coming. I'm like, holy crap, this is so amazing. And it's just really strange. So I can't explain my writing style. I really can't. I love to write. It's just my thoughts and my words coming out onto the keyboard. And I write almost every single day, whether it's my blog post or just a post about where we are, what we're doing, or it's my next book. I write every single day.
That's amazing. I had an author on the show a while back, and he like knew his ending before he even started with his first sentence. You know, he had it all planned out, knew before he even started. It sounds like for you, you've just started going at it, and that's amazing. You got to the end and it got you all excited because you were kind of living it as it happened for you. It's unbelievable.
I was absolutely.
That's amazing. All right, so tell me a few of the books. I know you mentioned the 7. Kind of what's the background of the 7? What's it about? And then maybe tell me a couple of your nonfiction, maybe a couple, your children's book, because I know you got a few books. And then what you got coming up, if you don't mind.
Okay, so yeah, the 7, like I said, on my author website, AlisonGieschen.com. I have a story behind the story for every single character in the 7.
Very
So
cool.
there are thousands of breeds of horses on this planet. So each person's story is tied to a breed that comes from their location. So I talk about the breeds of the horses and how they evolved. I talk about some of the actual culture and history from those places. And one of the characters is actually a real person. His name is Eduardo. His name is Eduardo in real life and the story. The last names are different. But he actually came into my life. So if you ever read the story, you're going to read it and you're like, holy crap, this is the person that actually came to Allison's farm in New Jersey. But like I said, I don't know how it all came together. It just did. But, okay, so that's the 7. You're asking about my books. So Riding the Waves of Reality, Tales of Turmoil and Triumph is the first 7 years. And I have the next book finished, which is Mediterranean Mayhem and Magic, and that's about our time in the Mediterranean. And Dan is finishing that up. He's my editor. He's a very good editor. He puts in all the pictures, he formats it, he publishes it. That should be done. If we hadn't had such a rough crossing, it would have been done by now. But he was a little preoccupied hand steering across the Pacific, so I can't really blame him. And then I have 2 children's books published. One is about what the sport of vaulting is. And it's a little girl who has a dream about, she sees somebody standing on the back of her horse and she keeps having it. She's like, Mama, why do I have this dream? I see somebody standing on the back of a horse. And she goes, well, honey, when you were little, I took you to a farm and they were doing gymnastics on horses and you saw somebody stand on a horse. And then she's like, oh my God, I have to do this. And so it's her journey learning about the sport of vaulting and becoming a vaulter. And so it's kind of a realistic fiction. And then I have a chapter book. It's just a fictional story, magicians and things in it. It's a really fun story with a lot of good morals. It's about bullying and about, people overcoming bullying, because my son was bullied really badly in school. So I kind of wrote that based on that. And then my book that's coming out soon is a mermaid book. I love mermaids. I named my daughter Catherine Ariel after the Little Mermaid. And I love mermaid stores. So one day I was in a mermaid store and I saw the most beautiful painting of a mermaid child I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it just took my breath away. And it was $4,000. Now, obviously, living on a boat, I'm not going to buy a painting, but I'm standing there. I said to Dan, wow, I wonder if they have that in a print. And some lady behind me goes, yeah, we do. The lady that brought me over, and there's this tub full of prints rolled up. So for $10, I bought a print of this. And on the airplane ride home, I had my notebook out and I wrote the story of Sienna, an early reader chapter book. I mean, again, I just looked at the picture and I knew her name was Sienna, and I wrote that book on the 6-hour ride home. So it sat for a couple of years, and then I'm on Facebook and I see this woman that we met sailing. We met her in Africa, Tunisia. And they were Americans, and we were talking to them. And I see her name, Barbara, and she was a children's book illustrator. And I'm like, how cool is that? And I saw a illustration she done for a children's book. I sent her a message, Barbara, would you be interested in illustrating my children's book about a mermaid? And she said, well, send me the manuscript. I'll read it. So I did, and she goes, I love this story. I will absolutely illustrate it. It wasn't my friend Barbara. It was somebody else from England who I have no reason to know her or heard her be on my Facebook page. And she's a 7-time international award-winning children's book illustrator from England. So she agreed to illustrate it, and she is about to finish up, and that should be published in another month or so.
Wow. Just hearing you talk about your books and what you've done, you're an amazingly talented person. This is fun for me to hear what you've done and just how you can just create the way you can. That's amazing.
Well, thank you. I don't know if it's a talent or just being really ADD and not being able to focus in any one place.
It could be a combination of a few of them, right? Yeah. But that's amazing. And I think it's really cool that you've got that going for you. I mean, you've got Dan, who's your editor, and he can, look at that sort of thing and put stuff together for you. He's got that mechanical engineer way about him, obviously. So that's good. So you both complement each other really well, which is great. I love the fact that you're doing these books. When you look back, you horse farms, education, teaching English, storytelling. Is there any core values or anything that kind of just remain constant through all of that?
I guess just having faith that whatever direction you're going in is the right one at the moment, and that life is going to change directions, and you can either fight it or you can embrace it. And I'm personally working on the embracing part, and I'm proud of myself that I'm still here, and I'm really fortunate that I can do something that I love while we're doing this, the writing and the picture taking. I guess life is what you make of it. And if you have a dream, you need to go for it, because life's too short not to go for it. And so I think just having faith in the direction you want to go and doing it.
Having faith in doing it. I love it. All right. Tell everybody where they can get your books. I think you said you have a website, but where's the best place to get a hold of your books?
Actually, if you go to AlisonGieschen.com, all my books are listed there, and they're also on Amazon. So if you did an author search on all my books are there. If you do a search on Amazon for Alison Gieschen author, then all my books should come up.
Excellent. Very good. And my final question to you, this is a question I like to ask everybody, because this is an adventure podcast. You've lived a lot of adventures, especially the last few years. What does adventure mean to you?
Let's see. What does adventure mean to me? It's really hard to nail that one down. It's like trying to nail a mermaid's fins to the floor. It's just flopping all over, and you got the hammer and you're trying to hit the nail on the head, but it's going to be really hard. I think adventure is something different for everybody, because for somebody who doesn't leave their house much, taking a walk in a park might be an adventure. I think it's your level of how you live life that defines adventure. Because everybody says, well, you're really adventurous. You just sailed across an ocean. But yet, that woman that you talked about sailing by herself, now that's really adventure. I'm just relying on Dan to get me across. So I think adventure is pushing the limits of what you think you can do and seeing if you can do it.
I love it. It's a great way to look at it. Alison, this has been fantastic. Thank you so much for coming on Journey with Jake.
Well, thanks for having me, Jake.
A huge thank you to Alison Gieschen for joining me today and sharing her incredible journey both on the water and on land. Be sure to visit her website, AlisonGieschen.com, or head over to Amazon to find any of her books. You'll be glad you did. I want to take a moment just to say how truly grateful I am for the chance to share Journey with Jake with all of you. Your support means the world to me, and I'd love it if you could share the show with a friend, family member, or anyone who loves a good story. I would really appreciate it. Next week, we're switching gears, but keeping the adventure alive as I talk with Kahete Shetty. I'm just going to say Shetty. She is a 20-year-old hobby horsing enthusiast who's redefining what it means to follow your passion. Trust me, you've never seen or heard anything quite like this. You won't want to miss it. Until next time, just remember, it's not always about the destination as it is about the journey. Take care, everybody.